I thank Angela for asking me to do this and allowing me to be of service. I never can pay back the debt I owe to all of you in this program. It is my pleasure to introduce our AA speaker today. He's one of my mentors. He's my friend. And he's also my sponsor, JR from Pollock Pines.
Good morning, my name is J.R. Harmon, and I'm a real alcoholic. And it is a pleasure to be here and an honor as well. I want to thank the committee and all the volunteers and all the people that it takes to put one of these together. You know, I've been involved in some of this stuff, and I know that there's countless hours and a lot of input and energy that goes into putting these together, and I am very grateful for your help. I also want to thank God for the miracle that He's given us. That miracle being a simple book that is full of promises. Some seem extravagant, but more importantly, in this book we've been giving a set of spiritual principles by which we can live. And for that, I am very grateful. You know, I really enjoy these weekends and events where alcoholics come together with Al-Anon family groups. I'm very grateful for Al-Anon family groups, and I hope that they are grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous, because the 12 steps, which are those spiritual principles by which we live, are shared openly with all. You know, those spiritual principles, the 12 steps, are the keys to life for me today. I have practiced these principles for long enough now that there is no question in my mind that they work. And the fact that they work is an understatement in my opinion, my belief, my experience. See, my experience tells me that these principles are amazing, and they will, as the book states, launch us into the fourth dimension. I oftentimes ask the question, is it possible that the fourth dimension is the spiritual dimension? They will allow us to tap into our vital sixth sense, which is another thing that is stated in this book. And I often ask the question, is it possible that the vital sixth sense is the spiritual sense? My experience tells me yes. And it's an amazing thing that happens. You know, the extravagant promises was the theme here this weekend. And we often, you know, almost every AA meeting, or, I know I don't think they do it at Al-Anon, but in AA, almost every meeting they read the promises. And that can be very deceiving because, and I'm guilty of it myself, early in the program, early in my time here, I thought those were the only promises. And how underestimating that could be. You know, I actually have done a little bit of, I've had the opportunity to do some studying about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And by the way, I am very grateful to tell you people that I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body by using the principles that are contained in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. You see, I believe that there is a huge difference between the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Our big book tells us quite clearly that the fellowship got its name from the book. That means the book was before the fellowship. The book is Alcoholics Anonymous, folks. We hear also, the preamble says that Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women. I understand that. But please do not lose sight of the fact that the real alcoholic needs spiritual help, and no human power will relieve us of our alcoholism. That means that the fellowship, which is, by the way, human, a group of humans, will not save your butt. The program, on the other hand, will. I've experienced it myself, and I've experienced through many others that the program will launch you into the fourth dimension. Back to the extravagant promises. I think there are promises all through here, and in studying the promises, I've come across one piece of writing that says that there are some 242 or 47 promises in the first 164 pages. I found another piece that says there's 138 or 142 or something. And I've looked at all those, and I can see how they can believe that there are 200 and some. Almost every page contains a promise. But some of the promises that mean the most to me are the ninth step promises that we hear all the time are very important. But the 10th step promises from pages 84 and 85 are unbelievable unless you've experienced them. You see, there are a lot of things in Alcoholics Anonymous and in these spiritual principles that you cannot know without having the experience. It's like going near a dairy, and I'm sure most of us have smelled big numbers of cows. They have a certain odor about them. You start getting close to the dairy, you start smelling them. But if you don't have the sense of smell, you really don't have the ability to know what a dairy smells like. You just can't know what cow poop smells like if you don't have the ability to smell. So some of these things have to be experienced. The only way you're going to have the experience is to do what's necessary to have the experience. Follow the directions. Go to the damn dairy. But the 10th step promises, here are some of what's contained in there. And we have stopped fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. That's a promise. If we follow these instructions the way they're laid out in the book, by the time you get to page 84 and 85, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it like a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor afraid. This is our experience. This is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. And that is what this whole thing is about. Fit spiritual condition. These principles, the 12 steps, are the vehicle that we are instructed in this book. And by the way, they never fail to do what they say they will. They take us to a place where God can work in us and through us. They place us in a place of neutrality. They open us up, similar to a water pipe. Only water don't necessarily flow through this pipe. Spirituality and all the things that go with spirituality do flow through that pipe. You know, I've been blessed beyond my own belief. I've come to the point where I never underestimate the power of God, because I see the power of God a lot, and I've experienced God through me. And it floors me. Folks, I'm telling you right now that there are people who have come in contact with J.R. Harmon in the past, in the moments that took place before this moment, who would never believe that I'm standing up here giving a spiritual talk to a bunch of people on Sunday. Some that come to mind real quick are the booking clerks. They wouldn't believe it. They would not believe it. And it's a shock. It's an amazing event for me, for which I am very grateful. And you know something? I haven't done anything to bring this about other than follow the instructions that are laid out quite clearly and simply in this book. I don't believe that I am the chosen one. I think I am one of the chosen who has followed the directions, been willing to discipline myself to do this work. And I'll tell you something clear and simple. It's like kissing a baby's butt compared to the life I went through before. This is the easier, softer way. You know, when I think about the Spirit, see, Step 12 tells us about us that we will have a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. I stated earlier that I've never seen that fail. I've not. You saw a gentleman come up here earlier and get a certificate. If there is a secret handshake in these programs, that is the secret handshake. To be able to work with people like that and see them awaken, to see their life change, to see them become productive and whole is amazing. It is a gift that's available to all of us. Another one of the promises in this book says that we have been given, by following the directions, we have been given the power to help others. That's an example of that. And once again, it's nothing that I do. I am simply the pipe that God flows through. Now, what happens to us is oftentimes our ego regenerates itself to the point where the pipe becomes clogged. You know, if you've ever seen an old water pipe out of the ground, the chemicals and the elements in the water collect in that pipe, and it will choke them down. And when it gets choked down, the flow is not clear. It's blocked. And that's what this book tells us about when we start talking about the inventory. It tells us that the step 4 inventory is essentially to remove the things that are blocking us, the things that are blocking us off from God's power. We do steps 4 through 9. We remove the things that are blocking us off from God's power. There was a time in my life when I thought I only needed to do that once. And that's what I did when I first came into the program. I spent 11 and a half years running on one trip through the steps. And then I was doing myself a 10th step inventory, of course, just like I'd heard in the fellowship, not the program. And this works for a lot of the fellowship, apparently. It works fine. It quit working for me, but what I was doing was I would go to bed at night and I would do myself a little mental rerun of my day. And I'd pray about it, and if there was an area where I needed to make amends, I'd make amends. But what was happening was damn seldom would there ever be anything in there that I needed to make amends for. Because what was happening was my amazing mind would justify everything that I had done all day long. You know, I could be all right with everything that I had done because, after all, I'm J.R. Harmon. And I was being run by a regenerated ego. I was driven by an ego, my ego, that said that you're all right, dude. Look at you. Well, that, as I stated earlier, that quit working. And I came to the jumping off point. And when I say the jumping off point, I mean the jumping off point. It wasn't pretty. 11 and a half years I'd been hanging around the fellowship. Remember, there's a difference from the fellowship and the program. God intervened before I jumped off at the jumping off point. God put some people in my life who had the ability to explain to me what this thing's really about. And they gave me a different definition of step 10. And I started doing step 10 in a different fashion. And since then, my life has taken off. Amazing things have happened. Amazing things. My wife has become very active in Al-Anon family groups. She's taken on a spiritual life. She has worked the steps, however they do it, and she has been unblocked. The things that were blocking her off are gone today. Yeah, just in the last, probably this weekend, she probably got some things she could stand to write about, but I'm not going to go there. But it's been amazing. And you know, these things happen. God knows what he's doing. You know, I think to best describe and to best give everyone an experience of God, and I want to make one thing clear first. I don't care what you call your God. I don't care if you call it goddess. I don't care if you call it Buddha. Call it whatever you want. And I'm really not concerned about who or what it is that you choose as God, or what I choose as God. You know, my God kind of morphs, you know, from time to time. The thing that I am interested in from God and about God is God's power. I want that power. You see, on page 45, the book tells us that lack of power, that was our dilemma. And I believe that. There's nothing in this book I do not believe. I think to have our best experience as an individual with God and the power of God, we'd be best to just sit here silent. Be still and know that I am, it says in the other big book. You know, not believe that I am, know that I am. And I think that would be the best way for all of us to come to know God, is to just sit quietly and experience God's power. Each moment is a new moment. You know, this group here, we are a spiritual body here. And this spiritual body will probably never be the same again. You know, there will be different, we could all come together tomorrow morning, there'd be somebody different, somebody that's sitting in a different spot. It would not be the way it is now. This is a spiritual moment. And we all need to awaken to the point where we can experience this moment and go through our lives experiencing the moment and the power that comes with that moment. You know, interesting thing I learned not long ago from Eckhart Tolle is that nothing happened in my past, and nothing is going to take place in my future. See, when everything, when my children were born, that was not in the past. When that happened, it was now. And the same for the future. Someday I may have grandchildren. When they're born, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in the future. It's going to happen in that moment. It's going to be now when that takes place. So what is really important? The only thing that's really important is this moment, right now. Be concerned with this breath, this moment, this spiritual body, and recognize that every breath, everything is sacred and spiritual. Don't cheat yourselves out of this. You know, see it for what it is. You know, this book also says that we can become spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation. Whoa. Imagine that. You know, don't go into it now, because if you do, you won't hear another word I say. Which might be all right too. But take that with you. Take that with you and spend some time in meditation, quiet time, however you do it, to think about that. You know, just what does that mean? A spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation. Woo-hoo-hoo. Hang on. You know, we come in here, we see a lot of people come in, hang around, they don't do the steps. That hurts me bad. I see people come in here and take a year, 2 years, you know, I hear them talking 6, 8 months down the road, and they're writing on their second, third step, you know, and I'm going, Jesus Christ, what are you waiting on? Why would you hesitate to get better? You know, page 84 in this book, where it starts talking about step 10, tells us that we have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. We're going to continue to do this work for a lifetime anyway, if we're following the directions in the book. So, thorough means thorough, but it doesn't mean to take forever. It doesn't mean to take 6 months. You know, when this thing first started, you were only a newcomer for 30 days. That's all you got. Because in 30 days, you were expected to be through the steps. And when this thing started, you were through the steps in 30 days. Or you were out in the damn gutter drinking some more. Because that's how they were. They were a little bit rough back then. We've watered it down, and we've let this message go to hell, basically. And it's not supposed to be there. We're supposed to be saving people's lives. We're supposed to be getting them to God as soon as we can. Our success rate today is not very good. It's embarrassing, as a matter of fact. You know, I'm disturbed by it. I'm hurt by it because I see people come into my meetings, and I know they're coming in, more than ever coming in, and our numbers are not growing. People are not staying. We're not keeping them. And I'll tell you what, here I am again, probably going to piss half of you off. I don't intend to do that. It just happens and I'll tell you why it happens. It happens because I care enough about all of you and about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous to tell you the truth. I'd rather save a life than be your friend. Because if I save your life, down the road, maybe I can be your friend. If I sit back in the back row and don't speak the truth and let you die, and God forbid that you take somebody else with you, then I'll never have an opportunity to be your friend, and I'm not doing AA a favor. I'm not being true to myself, and if you notice pretty regular, you see that little statement on the chips and everything that says, "To thine own self be true." Well, by God, I am being true to myself by telling you the truth. This thing is miraculous and amazing, and the problem that we've got, the reason we're not keeping the young people, the reason we're not keeping the old people, the reason we're not keeping the new people, the reason we're not keeping the ones that have been around for 5, 7 years. If you look at the chip counts on birthday nights, there's a big gap in there where nobody gets chips. The reason we're not keeping them is poor sponsorship. We're not giving those people what they deserve. We're not giving them what they come to Alcoholics Anonymous for. They come here for a solution to their problem. This is the solution. We're giving them a bunch of ego. We're giving them a bunch of whatever we think instead of giving them what the book's got. And we need to quit that. We need to bring this thing back to Alcoholics Anonymous, the clear and precise set of instructions that works, and get back to saving lives. We may never see 50 or 75% again, folks, but we can do a damn sight better than 4 to 7 that we find today. I encourage you all to get back to this book and the message contained in it. Not just for yourself, because you will benefit, but for all those to come. I got kids, and they got the genes, that come down through the pipe just like their dad. And they may have kids someday, and there may be grandkids. I don't know what that looks like. But someday they may need this program. And by God, I want them to have the program that saves, not the one that jacks them around and sugarcoats the message and makes it easy on them and pats them on the little ass and tells them how good everything's going to be, Tell them the truth. Let them find the happy, joy-free life that's available to them. My household today, my kids live by the principles of the 12 steps. Everybody in my house has worked this program, but I don't even know what time I started or how much time I've got. If anybody's got a way to indicate that, let me know. We went through something recently, my family. And not just, when I say my family, I don't mean my immediate family, because I have an extended family. By doing this work, I have entered the world of the Spirit, and there are some around me who have entered the world of the Spirit also, and those are my family members. I am also linked by family to all people who call themselves members of Alcoholics Anonymous, even the ones who are only in the fellowship and not in the program. But the ones who reside in the world of the Spirit that are unblocked are a different entity of family. Once again, that's like the smell of the dairy. You got to experience it to know it. But these people who are very close through the world of the Spirit went through this with us. And what happened is my son was involved in a very tragic vehicle accident. Another driver crossed the center divider and hit him head on. And I'm not going to give you every detail of the accident because it takes a long time. But I will tell you enough to tell you that my son should have died at the scene of the crash. He had a torn aorta. The cardiac doctor at the hospital told me that him and his team were excited about working on my son's injury. And I'm not cured yet. And when he said he was excited about working on my son's torn aorta, my first instinct was, you should have picked a better word to use, because I'm not too damned excited about it. And he detected real quick by the look on my face that I was not very impressed with his excitement. And he said to me, don't get me wrong, he says, little guy, cool dude, this cardiac doctor. He says, don't get me wrong, this is a terrible injury and a tragic accident. But he said, normally, if my team and I want to see this injury, we have to go to the morgue to see it. You see, my son should have been killed instantly in that crash by the torn aorta. He was spared. And at the scene, they didn't know that he had a torn aorta. They left him in the car because he told them, he was coherent through the whole thing, he told them that he was okay. Take care of the other people. See, now, that's putting others in front of himself. He was trapped in the vehicle. Both legs, they knew his legs were very badly messed up. They finally got the other people taken care of, and they got a chance to get him out of there. They got him on a helicopter. They flew him to a hospital. At that first hospital, they took him out and they put him in a CAT scan, and they discovered this torn aorta, and they freaked out. Holy shit, we don't work on those here. They called the helicopter back, and they sent him to another hospital where they work on that type of injury. And they went to work on him there. My wife was at home that morning. She had seen Curtis off. He was on his way to work, 8 o'clock in the morning. I was on the road. I drive truck for a living. She called me on the phone. She said, well, we'd had a little bit of a conversation there prior to this call. There were a couple calls that morning, and she finally called me and she said, yeah, Curtis been in an accident. And she said, they told me that he's going to be all right, but they got him in the hospital, and I got to get down there. So we made arrangements for her to get a ride to this hospital, and I started that way in the truck. And I finally got there at the second hospital. And when I first found it, we didn't know the extent of his injuries. But the first thing that I did was what I've instinctively learned works through this program and this spiritual set of principles. I began to pray. I went right straight to God. And I prayed for what this book tells me to pray for. God's will and the power to carry that out. Think about that. God's will, I don't know what that is. It's blind prayer. I'm praying for God's will. What's that look like? Does God see it to be time to take my son? This gift that I've been given for 23 years, because I've sat with this before, and I know that he is a gift. Everything in my life is a gift that's been given by God. And I am to look at everything in that fashion, in that light. And I look at the time that I've had my children as gifts. So I'm saying, give me God's will. I ain't going to like it a bit if it's God's will to take my son. But the next part of that prayer is the important part. And it is every bit as blind as the first part. The second part of that prayer says, and the power to carry that out. Okay, think about that a little bit. What am I going to have to do? If it's time for him to take this gift back to heaven, then I'm going to have to sit down and plan a funeral. If it's not time to take him, what is it time for? I don't know. And I looked at it just like that. I don't know what this looks like. I don't know what your will is. I don't know what that looks like. And I don't know what the power to carry your will out looks like either. But you bring it. Because I've got blind faith today. I've got blind faith in a power greater than myself that has not yet let me down, has never failed, wants me to have everything. He wants me to have things I don't even know are available. He has given me gifts beyond my wildest dreams. I trust, I have faith today. And these things are all results of following these strict spiritual principles as they are laid out in this beautiful book. Do not cheat yourselves out of this. And I don't give a hoot who you are or what you are. I don't care if you're an alcoholic or an Al-Anon or a pig or a duck, white, black, male, female. I don't care. Get a piece of this. Get a piece of this. Live it. Give it a chance to change you on a cellular level, because it will. If you continue to do this, you will continue to experience spiritual growth through spiritual awakening after spiritual awakening and spiritual awakening after spiritual. It will never end. I recently read one of the books that the bill refers to in Appendix 2. Oh boy, I forget the name of it. Thomas Merton. Variety of spiritual experiences. God, what a gift. You cannot know what's available through the spiritual realm without doing the necessary footwork to see what's there. Go to the dairy, smell the cows. Sometimes they're uncomfortable. Awakening, being awakened is uncomfortable. How many of us have been in a sound sleep and had somebody come up behind us and clap or yell or shake us or whatever, you know? Sometimes it's not comfortable to be awakened. And that's why people don't want to hear me tell the truth, because they're uncomfortable with the awakening. They don't like it when a bright light is shined on their darkness. And you know what? By God, I don't care. God bless them all. And may the light shine in the lives and on each and every one of you from here on out. God bless you, and thanks for letting me share.
hope you enjoyed this recording. If you are interested in other speaker tapes or CDs from AA or Al-Anon, please contact us at Sound Solutions, toll free 1-877-893-2777, or visit us on the web at soundsolutionsrecording.com. We are also available to cover your recording and sound system needs. Thank you for allowing us to be of service and carrying the message.